Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Deeply Renegade podcast. My name is Molly, also known as the Deeply Renegade, and I'd like to welcome you guys to episode 50. Today is Saturday, July 12th, 2014, and I think today's supposed to be the first day over 100, which is surprising for this late in July, apparently. But here I am outside. My coffee's going to stay hot today. So, as far as weeks go, I feel like it's going to be a week low on knitting and high on spinning. um, because the Tour de France is going on right now, and I have been pretty faithfully watching it. What is it? So, it's the case where today the stage was on NBC, and I set my alarm so I could start watching at the beginning of the stage, and then I decided to sleep. So I managed to catch the last half hour, which was really cool. And the only day I really missed was day 5, and that was the case where I ended up doing a yoga class for the first time, and then I went to knit with the ladies. And apparently it would have been a really, really great stage to watch, so I feel a little bit bad about that, but it isn't the end of the world. This is really the first time that I've watched or followed the Tour de France closely since 2005, so it's been a lot of fun to watch, and it's been a great opportunity to spin while watching. So I worked on 2 knitting projects this week, however. I suppose I can probably show this guy first. So I am still chugging away on the Nubum, or my walk on the Nubum. And I apparently stopped at a sort of random place, but whatever. So this is how it is turning out so far. I'd like to show the more hexagonal part because I think it shows off the pattern a little bit better. So I still haven't incorporated the maroon, or the aka Magnolia Dark, back into it yet, but I am getting pretty close. I actually, 3 rows ago, just put in my last bit of gray, and I really just wanted to show you guys. This is how much gray is left. So after I had done doing this sort of like star stitch here, I did a couple of rows and then I put in another garter ridge of gray. Let's just say that this is 0.7 grams. I think, so I must be up to like 3 grams a row now, which maybe is why it feels like this project's taking forever. I have, So I just weighed before I started, and I had 99.3 grams left. I'm obviously not going to end up using any more of the gray, so that brings me down to, 98.6. Left to go on this. I have, I have 50-some grams of the piney, and then I have 40-some grams of the magnolia left. So I should be sitting pretty for the rest of the shawl. It's the case of what my plan is, and hopefully I can implement said plan, is so the section that I'm working on now is mostly green, and then the Magnolia Dark is going to be the contrast color in here. And then I wanted to do a Magnolia Dark ruffle. And so right now it's just sort of at the wait and see stage as to when I'm actually going to start the ruffle. I'd sort of like to get in as much as possible of the other sorts of motifs in this. So I'm going to be doing a couple of rows of green, maybe not as many as the pattern calls for. And that is mostly because I'm just trying to make it balanced after sort of getting rid of the gray. Or using up as much of the gray as possible. So At some point, I'll probably put in a garter ridge of the magnolia, and then either I'm gonna do 6 or 8 rows before I do that. I think I'd have to check the pattern and see how far off I'm going to be. It's really been sort of interesting balancing how much yarn I have and making sure I'm doing it in whatever the smartest possible way. If I was to start over again, I would have used the Magnolia Dark as the second color because that is actually the color that gets used the most. Whereas my plan was to have, whereas the thing I'm doing right now is having Magnolia Dark be the first and fourth color in this shawl. Though I don't know if I would have been able to make it nearly as big if I had gone from gray, my Grafrots, to the Magnolia, to the Piney. It might have worked, I'm not sure. It definitely would have, it's definitely maybe a bit more challenging in order to use up whatever if you had a Walk on the Moon kit, which is 3 100-gram balls of wool mica, I don't think that you could knit a Walk on the Nuvum with the amounts that you had in the kit. So, because I started off with 150 grams of the Magnolia Dark, and I used 90 for the first color. So if I had had a full skein, I would have been able to do the first color, but for the second, you would have needed more. So, I do not know. But because of this leaves me at, I believe, 67% done at this point. So I only got like 7% of the shawl done this week instead of, instead of 10%. So I don't know if I'm gonna work harder on this soon or if it turns out, I do have travel coming up, which would mean that I would have gads of time to knit. It's also, so what is it? I am going to be going to Michigan, but I'm going there via Indiana, or going there and coming back via Indiana. So one of my good friends is getting married, and coincidentally, it's also my husband's family reunion, so we're going to hit up both. So that'll be a lot of fun, and that will be a lot of knitting time as well. So it should work out. Let's see. What else? So this is coming together. I was hoping that I would have gone to the maroon before this podcast, but I haven't, so not the end of the world there. Because it would be nice to show whatever this last color combination, but I'm sure I'm going to be continuing to show this project as whatever time goes by. The other project I'm working on is Maritz. I think on Ravelry I ended up naming it the lizard socks because that's what they are. You'd think my husband's spirit animal was the lizard. So, my trick for working on it was I brought it to knitting with the ladies. Down at Holly's Yarns in Dallas. And I didn't end up even working on it the whole entire time I was there, but better than that. Here, I'll bring up the bag of great, ridiculous size. So, I had a slight moment of panic before the podcast that I had somehow forgotten one of the things I'm going to be showing off on the spinning. And I've just pulled this out of the bag and it's all kinds of broken. So let's just say I only have some of the needles I need in it at the moment. So I'm gonna maybe quick try to recover this before stitches fall out. So it is, so what is this? This is Maurice, which is by Stephanie van der Linden. I am knitting this on size 0 needles, just so that I can fit my husband's little chicken legs. And I was sort of disappointed to find that it came off the needles in the bag, but not too much that I can do about that now. It looks like I found a pattern repeat. So I ended up getting a bit farther. I finished the ribbing that I'm doing for the cuff. I'm not following the pattern for the cuff. The short answer being that I looked, when I initially started this sock, when I initially had started this sock, I followed the directions what I thought were to be exactly, but it still came out a little, like it looked exactly like the picture and it wasn't really what I wanted. So I have done a couple rows of color work at this point. I'm trying to think of my I've just realized something. I reversed the colors on this sock. So on this sock here, I have the red lizards are sideways and the black lizards are going up and down. And on this sock, it's the exact opposite. The black lizards are horizontal and the red lizards are going to be vertical. It's sort of annoying. I don't know whether or not I would end up ripping back to the beginning of the color work and doing it the same as this sock, or talking with the Dear Sweet Lovable one and figuring out if he would like to have socks with reverse coloring. It might make the sock a bit too ridiculous for him if I reverse the coloring. So, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. I even had the sock in the bag, so there really wasn't any excuse as to why it would be different than the first sock. So I'll have to have a powwow with him about that. That is entirely my fault. So I probably maybe got a ½ inch done on it this week, so not a ton, but whatever, such is life. Lots of silliness. So, most of this week has actually been spinning. I was hoping that, what is it? Words. So, before I started my original goal for the tour, which was to spin as many skeins of my chocolate Shetland fleece as possible, I wanted to get my nest off of the spindle, even though I'm not using that spindle for the fleece spinning. And that ended up being the first 4 days of the tour. We're finishing up the nest fiber. And so let me pull it out for you guys. So this here is the skein of the leftovers that I had. My ball, which had, my ball, which had the long color runs, ended up being a good bit longer than the other ball for whatever reason. I'm not sure why. I was thinking I was gonna have way more yardage on the short color repeat ball. So this has a little bit of the red and then a full color repeat here. And this is Navajo plaid. It turned out to be about 18, or it turned out to be 18 and a half yards, all said and done. And it's definitely a bit twisty. It isn't my best Navajo plying to date, but it is sort of cool to see the color repeats done in that way. So, pretty fetching. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with it now. I should have just plied it onto the end of the main skein, but yeah, not the end of the world. My other one is the main skein. So this is a 2-ply fractal, and it ended up being 402 yards. So this meant that I got 420 yards out of my. It ended up being the skein was it was just a little bit heavy. So this was 3.9 ounces. The other one was 0.3. So I got 4.2 ounces. So I had 4.2 ounces of fiber, and I got 420 yards of yarn out of it, which was pretty cool. And this is the main skein. So I'd have to say, in terms of learning and growing, that this is probably one of my best skeins to date. I'll just show you the color, and so I think why it is that I'm so happy with how it turned out was that there is nothing over twisted at all with the singles of this yarn, and so what this resulted in was a really soft, perfectly spun skein. And like looking at this, like I know that there are thick parts, there are thin parts, but that in terms of putting in as little twist as possible in order to keep it to hold together, like it was definitely a really big leap forward to me, because I know that where I stood last year on this was I was definitely over twisting my singles, and so I understand better now that it's the just enough instead of the just like spin, spin, spin. So I think I'm really starting to get a sense for what is right for that. Excuse me. So I am really, really happy with how this turned out. It would be really great to get it on the needles like really soon. I'm not quite sure what I would make with it. It is superwash merino, but based on how I spun it, I wouldn't really want to do socks with it. So I am just over the moon with how this ended up turning out. I was a little bit worried that the colors would look sort of crazy, but with the finished skein in hand, I think it ended up turning out quite great. I am very happy with it. So probably when it's knit up, it's going to be pretty stripy, since I did have those long color runs in this. So I think this guy here is going to have 3 color runs of, what is it? So this has 3 long color runs on 1 ply, and then it has 7 of the shorter color runs on the other. So if you guys have any ideas about what I should make with this, I'm sure, like I'm thinking shawl, or like a triangle shawl or something like that would really show it off. So if you have any ideas, that's great. I'm pretty sure that this counts as a fingering weight. If not, thinking like if it isn't a fingering weight, then it's a sport, I would say. So I'm definitely very excited about this. Wrap this back up again. Oh, caught my ring. So I definitely enjoyed quite a bit spinning this fiber. I'm looking forward to breaking open my other nest braids. Probably the next one that I would end up breaking into would be the magpie, as perhaps whatever the spin in between doing another skein for the chocolate shell and please. So that was whatever, my finished object. That ended up counting to what is it, 420 more yards for Stash Dash. It means I have 2 more big projects to finish before I'm done. Be that the Be that the Nuvum, be that the Marit sock, be that the sweater, which I haven't really worked on very much recently. Maybe that one is actually the one that's closer to being done out of all of these. I believe that if I finish the Nuvum, I'm 80% there. But that obviously I would need to be putting in quite a bit of time in order to get that. So what I've been working on since day 4, so today was what? Today was day 8 of the tournament. So the other days were spent at least a little bit working on the other spinning project, which is the chocolate Shetland fleece, which I know you guys have been seeing a fair amount of lately. So when I had last weighed it, I was 1.3 ounces left in the bag. So this is about 7, or 0.7, sorry, so far. I guess I'm assuming I definitely had some waste because I ended up combing in some of the shorter bits, and then the shorter bits didn't really want to stay in the in the yarn itself. So this is a couple of rologs in at this point. This is what my bag of rologs is looking like right now. Did I show you guys my bag of rologs last time? I might have been prepping them last Friday. So my bag of rologs. I certainly have quite a bit left in here, left to spin. But that isn't a big deal. This is my main goal for the Tour de France is, or whatever. My main goal for Tour de Fleece is to spin while watching the Tour de France. And then to just keep on moving forward and getting a couple more of these skeins out of the way. It's sort of funny because when I was carting up that bunch of rologs, like there is so much. So I have the rest of the fleece in 2 grocery bags. And it was sort of funny to realize that when I carted up those rologs, it really was an insignificant dent in the amount of fleece that I have, which on one hand is pretty good because I haven't even spun a pound yet. I believe, yeah, no, I haven't spun a pound yet. I have 4 skeins so far. They're about 8 ounces so far. The spin along that I'm doing with this is the completely twisted and arbitrary spin the bin. And so the rest of my bin is that fleece. So it's just the case where there's the opportunity for fabulous prizes if I can get 12 total skeins for my spin the bin, which means that I need to have, what is it? 3 of them were not, so that means I need to have 9 done. And the other deadline that I'm facing is I'm doing the pound-a-thon for a complete twisted arbitrary, which means that I would need to spin, I think, 18 or 20. I would need to have 18 or 20 done by September. I don't know whether or not it's feasible. I think after Stash Dress is over, I'll feel less goofy about whatever doing this cable ply yarn, because you're spinning and then you end up 4-plying it, and it just doesn't account for that much yardage. So, oh well, that is the story there. Let's see. I guess the next thing I'd like to talk about is my dyeing experiences. So, what was it? I think it must have been like Sunday or something like that. I was at the grocery store. I got a call from my mom, and I was trying to check off all the things on my list. And then I knew that the next grocery store I was going to wasn't going to have Kool-Aid. So I went to the aisle that had powdered drink mixes, and I grabbed don't know. I believe I read 12 packets, which were blue and they had blue 4 on them. And since I was talking with my mom, I didn't realize that ingredient number 2 was red 40. So I open up the packet 3 at a time and I pour it in and then I look at it and like it's red. Red. So yes, there was some blue in there, but it was mostly red. Because it was the tropical punch Kool-Aid. So it turned out they didn't have the mixed berry variety. Or maybe if I'd searched around a little bit more, I would have found it, but silliness. But I think that it ended up turning out really well. So after I saw that it was red, I decided to actually go ahead and put the rest in the pot. Got it all mixed in with some water, and then I dunked in my skeins. And then heated it up till the water was mostly clear. So I think that the red ended up covering it a lot better than the, than the blue was. And there's definitely sections in here which are certainly pretty blue at this point. I don't even know if you guys can see what's going on there. Hopefully. Maybe I'll have to, I never verify anyways. This is just the way it is. So now the yarn is, I would say, sort of a combination of reds, purples, and then a teal. With it, there really isn't any trace of the brown anymore. I'm trying to figure out the best way to show this. I think I need to bring it just closer to my body. There we go. So, so this is how it's turning out. Oh wait, out of the frame. This way? Yes, this way. So I haven't really done too much to detangle it at this point. It's probably going to be a bear to detangle, but there's not too much that I can do about that at this point. But it is no longer brown. It is jewel tones. So, and it smells like the Kool-Aid. So there's definitely some teal parts. There's definitely sort of purpley reds and stuff like that. And they're definitely not matched skeins at all. Like, in order to make something with it, I would have to probably alternate all 3 of them. So, but that should be fine. I have to give Claudia Wilmysot a lot of props because this superwash merino is probably the most challenging thing I've ever tried to dye. So it's sort of the case where like it happily takes dye to the point where it almost goes too fast. If that makes any sense at all. Like, it's the case where it wants to suck up the dye so badly. Here we can maybe slide them over behind me. It takes up the dye so fast that like you don't know, like you can't control how it's taking the dye because it's sucking in so quickly. So I'm very impressed that Claudia can create repeatable colorways with this yarn because, and like, or maybe that's the reason why she ends up going to the very end of saturation, because other than that, like you can go all the way, but it would be very, very hard to pick anywhere between not dyed and all the way dyed, it seems. So it was just very eye-opening for me. And honestly, I don't have time to start my own dyeing business anyways. This is more just a case where I'm like, this yarn, I'm not very excited about it. So, however that ends up working out. So I think sometime after Stash Dash is over, I'll take the time, reskein them, because it's going to be a big mess, and get them all nice and neat and all that other stuff. Excuse me. Because I'd rather spend my day or whatever, spend my time trying to get stash done and out of the way. I was really, what is it? Because I'd really like to be able to make it. And I suppose that I do have all weekend to get things checked off the list and all of that other stuff. So we shall see how it goes. Okay. There's only one other thing that I wanted to talk about today, and that was my stash positions. It took a couple of days, but I did manage to finally pick up the package I got in the mail. So I ended up getting the latest installment of the Nest Fiber Club, and I ended up re-upping my club, so I'm in it for at least another 3 months. And especially on the heels of finishing my first Nest skin, or my first skein of Nest, I am incredibly happy that I'm still a part of the club. So this colorway is called Nebula, and it is on a BFL base. And so it's a bunch of very saturated colors. So what would it be? So I'll just pull it out of the bag. So what we've got going on is orange, purple, maroon, teal, sky blue, and then back around again. So I'm up arranging this at least somewhat in order. So this is what I've got, and this whatever is in like gradient formation. So it's very, very pretty. I'm very, very excited with what I got, and there's definitely maybe even some red and some black in this as well, but it's pretty subtle in the grand scheme of things. And so then it's dyed very, very similar to the Primavera, for example, but a very, very gorgeous braid of fiber. So I'm wondering if this would be a good candidate for trying to do socks with, or something like that. I can definitely tell just from feeling it now, especially in comparison to the skein I just finished. The BFL is definitely coarser than the Superwash Merino, but the Superwash Merino was more like kittens and butterflies, so words cannot describe how ridiculously soft the Nest was, or whatever the Superwash Merino was, but I'm really happy with what I ended up getting. And I'll probably end up needing to take photos of this as well. I need to take photos of the yarn I just dyed too. So it's not, it hasn't gone to the very tippy top of the queue of what I want to spin, but I am definitely looking forward to using it. I would say, what is it? I'm probably going to spin the Magpie next out of my Nest, but we'll see when I get around to it. So, is there anything else I wanted to talk with you guys about? Oh, there was one other thing. This doesn't necessarily really count as like a stash position, but it appears that I have, what is it? Joined the 21st century. So, what is it? I'm in the process of getting everything set up the way I want it to be, and it turned out I missed the boat on calling people so I could transfer the number from this phone to this one, but I'm now the proud owner of an Apple product in the color blue. Is that any surprise to you guys? No. It would have cost, what is it, $100 more to get the latest and greatest, and I decided that I'd like to spend $100 less and get something that's blue. So you'll probably be hearing more about interesting apps that I've managed to put on this. And for the most part, this is actually a tool more than a toy. So the fact that I wasn't able to check emails or transfer photos or what else? I know I'm sort of in the situation as what is it? For example, an engineer who works for an auto manufacturing company tends to carry a Leatherman with them or something like that, because a tool like that is used for calibration and adjustments. And so when you're working at a technology company, you carry a phone with you because a phone is a tool that allows you to be in a ton of different places and be able to still check your email and take pictures of stuff and not have to circumvent around like camera rules and stuff like that. So this for the most part is going to be a tool, but I'm very excited to be able to access whatever the Apple universe of apps and stuff like that. There are some apps which are only available through Apple. The biggest of which will be the iSpin Toolkit. So I really want to be able to get a hold of that. So it's a tool. It could be a toy, but for the most part, it's a tool. And so I now have a smartphone, which is so sort of ridiculous. Let's see, any other things. So today's the 12th. I'll be recording again on the 19th. And I don't imagine that there'll be any problems with that. The weekend after that, I will not be recording since I will be all over the place. But that shouldn't be a big deal at all. I don't know if I'll record during the week or not. That week? I don't know. We'll play it by ear, but let's just say that I'm going to be the week of the 20th is going to be extremely busy for me, or that would be the week of the 21st. The week of the 21st is going to be extremely busy for me, so I don't think I'll be able to manage record before the trip. I might be able to swing it at the end, because I'm actually going to be moving from this apartment to my longer term place, which is what I found last weekend. And last weekend was so much of an adventure that I really don't want to leave the apartment today. We'll just leave it at that. That was poor planning all around. But I did manage to end up getting everything set up for a lease, so that's good. I'll probably end up needing to drive down to the apartment complex today and end up signing everything and getting everything squared away, because I'll be taking over the apartment on a weekday. So I think that's everything. So there'll be much spinning to be had, and there will be probably much knitting to be done today, which I'm looking forward to for sure. If it turns out that I can get back on my 10% a week for the new one, that would be really exciting. And yeah, I think that's everything for me this week. So I hope you all have a great week. It was really late to sit outside with you on what's going to be whatever that first really hot day of the year. Like, I'm not sweating, I'm dry. I don't know whether or not my new balcony is going to be as shady as this balcony. Hopefully the colors aren't too off. I was trying to go after a different angle today so there wouldn't be such big changes. And I'll see you all next week, so take care, guys. Bye-bye.